Thank you so much for coming today, everybody. It's really great to see you all. I'm going to be talking today. It's Thanksgiving week, and thought I'd give a Thanksgiving message. But before I do that, I wanted to just give a big thank you to Gilo and Justino, who are not here today. But last weekend, Adoni and I, we were gifted a weekend stay at a nice place up in Steamboat Springs. And in order for us to do that, we had to find people to, fill in. Gilo graciously accepted our request for him to give a message, and I thought he did a really great job. And Justino also filled in for emceeing. So we're very grateful to be able to do that. It's nice to be able to get away for a weekend when it's not like a Christmas holiday or emergency or something like that. So Thanksgiving is kind of a holiday that I've always really enjoyed and really appreciated. Of course, there's the aspect of having a nice meal together and the turkey and everything and a family gathering. But for me, Thanksgiving, I think for a long time has always been a little bit more than that, because our family didn't really do a lot of family celebrations. But I always connected more with kind of the maybe original meaning of Thanksgiving, to recognize God's presence and intervention in our lives, and to express our gratitude for that, because as Chelsea was singing the song, I could really connect with that song, because I feel personally that when I think about all the things that I have in my life that I'm grateful for, that are good, I feel like I have to give credit to God for those things, because I feel like myself, I'm a very small person, and I wouldn't have this life. I really believe that. I wouldn't have this life, I believe, if it weren't for God. So for me, Thanksgiving is a very special day to really give God credit for everything that I have in my life that I value. It's really important to me. It's also a day to recognize that in our time of need, many times God has come through for us. Maybe you've had that experience in your life, when you were at a point in your life where you didn't know what to do. You felt you had no options, you had no path forward, and you felt that God heard your prayer. And God helped you find a way forward. It's a holiday rooted in the story of the original Plymouth colony and the pilgrims who came together at that time, who had nothing and almost died. But because the Native Americans came and helped them, showed them how to farm, and helped them to be able to provide for themselves in a new land, that they could come together and thank God. This is a verse from Psalms. "O give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from trouble and gathered from the lands, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south." And this is from 1 Thessalonians. "Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." But Thanksgiving is not a holiday without controversy, as we all know. In recent times, it's been really highlighted that, maybe the story of Thanksgiving is not all fairy tale and, picture perfect, like many of the cartoons and stories kind of picture it. And even though we do have a lot of, journals and evidence of what happened in Thanksgiving, and, there's a lot of historical precedents and information there, it's also true that there's a lot of pain and suffering around, the concept of, the Americans and the Native Americans coming together. at that time as well. I think in a lot of ways, yeah, the story is too simplistic. There were problems, and a lot of people have a lot of pain and resentment, and we can't expect that those things would just disappear, even with time. It's not the way it works. And I'm sure that not all the pilgrims were saints. Some were probably not very good people. But it's a little bit of a dilemma for our time, because now, as people of the modern time, we have the benefit to be able to look back at history and to be able to look at it with a more, fine-tooth comb or a lens, Looking back on what we know now, we can look back at history and, be able to maybe understand that it's more complicated than we thought it was. There's more to the story. And I think that in a lot of ways, this is a big dilemma for us as people today, because there's value in history, right? But we also have to accept that history has both good and bad. That just like our own personal lives and the history of our lives, history is flawed. History has problems. And not all aspects of every side of the story is always equally presented. So it's a big dilemma for us because we can't change the past, but as we dig into it, according to our level of understanding and morality today, we often don't like what we see. And I think that just like we often will do that with the past, we can often find ourselves doing that with our own lives. Many times as we become adults and we have kids and we go through life and we go through the different seasons and phases of life, many times we'll look back on our own life, the decisions we made, the things we were told as we were growing up, our experiences in childhood, and we'll be like, oh my gosh. And we start to see things from a different light. We start to recognize, oh, maybe, that was really beautiful. Like that sacrifice, I never recognized how much my parents sacrificed for me. I never recognized how much my parents loved. I don't know, Mark, what's going on with this?
I don't know.
You fixed one thing, because we spent the week fixing the TVs, right? Because they haven't been working recently, and then we have other issues. Anyway.
It's okay, we hear you very well.
I know, it just sounds really loud from my side. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. We come to different stages of our life and we start to recognize, oh, maybe that was really, there's two sides, right? Sometimes we recognize the investment and the love and care for us that was there that we didn't see at the time because we were too young, we were too immature, we weren't at that phase of our life where we knew what it was like to have to care for somebody else or sacrifice for somebody else or whatever. But then also sometimes we look back on our experiences and we realize, oh my gosh, that really damaged me. That has really affected my ability to be a good husband or wife or a parent or, just a functional human being or whatever it could be. And that's very hard to digest because, we think that life was one way and then we start to realize there's more to it. It's maybe not all good or maybe not even all bad, but like a mix, a constant mix and an up and down of both. And we don't like that. But the reality is that life is flawed. There's always some good and there's always some bad. So there's always an opportunity and a need for us to be able to go back and let go of things. Whether it's us looking at history or us looking at our own lives, there's always a process of, yeah, recognizing what really happened and being able to let go of maybe things that I'm not proud of, things that I'm not happy about, things that I recognize were maybe a perspective that wasn't true. It can be easy to look at our life and to see only the mistakes, the guilt, the disappointment, unmet expectations or hardships. But there's a big difference between letting go of something and rejecting something. So kind of going back to the original title of my message, the difference between letting go and rejecting something. So a few years ago, Adonia and I were into this Marie Kondo, this KonMari method of cleaning your house. It's kind of fallen out of the news lately. I don't know if, we stopped doing it a long time ago. It was really cool for a while though. This Japanese lady came up with this really kind of seemed like a revolutionary way of cleaning your home and your environment and organizing. And one of the things that I really loved about it, more than actually the cleaning and the organizing part, was actually the attitude around letting go of things. So part of the KonMari method is that you go through everything that you have and you take out piece by piece, mostly with clothes. She's talking a lot about clothes. And there's the aspect of, do I love this? Does it give me a spark or not? But then there's the other aspect of when you let go of something, you say thank you. I don't remember the exact details, but in my memory it's like, thank you for serving a purpose in my life. And it's funny to do that with clothes, but actually I think it's a very powerful thing, because oftentimes our other way of looking at things in our life is to reject them. To look at our clothes from our past that we no longer wear and be like, oh my God, I bought this and then I never wore it. Or I bought this because I thought I would fit it someday if I lost a bunch of weight, but then I never did, so oh my God, it's like a value judgment on me. Like, I can't believe I did that, I'm so ashamed of myself. Or maybe it's clothes that once fit and you held on to them. I have a lot of these, by the way. Clothes that you once fit, but you don't fit them anymore, but you're keeping them because I might fit them again someday. And I have a bunch of those, and I'm pretty sure my next step is going to be to start to let those things go. But a lot of times, if you think about it, then it's like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why couldn't I lose the weight? Or why couldn't I follow through with that determination that I had to fit these clothes again, or to wear these in the circumstances that I wanted to wear them in? And it can be tempting just to stuff them in a bag and throw them out with disgust, right? It's like, man, that was so dumb. But her mentality is not, no, don't throw away things in disgust because they didn't meet your expectations or whatever. Thank them, That was an inspiration you maybe had in your life at the time. That was a hope that you had, a desire that you had. Maybe it didn't pan out, but it represented something of meaning and value to you at that time. So even in the simple act of throwing away clothes, you can say to the clothes, thank you. Thank you for being there, being that moment of inspiration for me. Thank you for serving me at that time in my life. Thank you for being there for me. It's kind of silly, but I think that if we applied that same way of thinking to other areas of our life, to the people in our lives, to our families, to our past, our memories, our experiences, maybe we would look at life very differently. And I think that maybe we would feel a little bit more at peace, more grateful in the different areas of our life that maybe bring us a lot of pain today. In my mind, when we reject something, And I don't know what you think when you hear the word reject. Reject is kind of a strong word. Like if someone rejected you, it's like, it's not only an action, but it's a feeling too. If you've ever felt rejected, there's pain. There's an experience of loss. There's an experience of, I don't want to have to go through that again. I didn't like anything about it. It was just all bad, nothing good. That's kind of what I feel when I think about rejecting something. Maybe rejecting the past, rejecting my parents, rejecting my faith, rejecting things that maybe I grew up hearing or understanding. It's kind of a strong, there's a feeling, there's a spirit to it. But letting go, in my feeling, is a little bit different. Letting go is more about acceptance. Letting go is more about recognizing that maybe it was a painful experience. Maybe it was, there was a burden there. There's a heartache there. But also to accept that life is like that. Life has its ups and its downs. Life has its good and its bad. And nobody's perfect. And to have compassion and sympathy for those people and those situations, and to accept it as kind of the package that it is. I think that's a little bit more wholesome. I think it's a little bit more healthy. When we reject something completely, it's very hard to embrace the possibility that there's some good there. That maybe that God is present somewhere in that circumstance. God maybe has some plan, has some hope, has some purpose in it all, or lesson. And the reality is that God has always had to work with flawed people and flawed circumstances. Whether we're talking about, the central figures of the Bible, or Jesus trying to convey his words to his disciples and they just couldn't understand what he was talking about. And the people couldn't accept him for who he was. Or the many people that God has tried to work through who wavered. Maybe at one point in their life they were very convicted, but then they're like, I don't know God. Or anger, emotions get the best of us. But I think that, unfortunately, that's kind of the reason why some of our lessons and growth in life often comes through difficult circumstances, because they're just a part of our life, whether we like it or not. Here's a verse from James. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. One of my deeper experiences with this area of my life came from about 10 years ago or so, when our national church had this big initiative called Love and Life Ministries. And when Love and Life Ministries fell apart because the leader, Injin Moon, had an affair with the band leader and a baby, didn't tell anybody about it, and the whole thing just kind of came crashing down. And also there wasn't really a lot of to explain. But I felt very personally betrayed, and I felt very personally let down. And at that time, my feeling was I had never experienced that level of doubt and betrayal in my life up until that point. I know I'm lucky. But my first feeling is I just want to throw it all away, because it's all very painful. I just wanted to throw it all away and not believe in anything. It just seemed like maybe one way of dealing with it. that seemed to make sense at the time. But what ended up happening is we ended up moving to live with Adonia's parents for a year. And fortunately, I had my family, my in-laws, and a healthy environment and nature. And I could take the next year to really digest that experience and do a lot of prayer and soul searching, conditions, reading, research. And that was a very uncomfortable experience that I kind of would never wish to go through again, personally. Was many, many, many hours over a period of a year. And, it doesn't change the past. The past happened. Some pain is still there. But I've embraced the realization, the understanding that there are many sides to every situation. And I could embrace compassion for the people who were in this difficult situation that I felt hurt by. And I recognize that for me, personally, I actually really gained so much out of that experience. It doesn't mean it's good that it happened, but for me personally, I gained so much out of that experience because it really forced me to look at my faith, what I believed. I was ready to throw out everything. I was ready to throw out God. I was ready to throw out divine principle, any kind of higher truth. I think I could have easily become one of the many young people that they just don't know. They're unsure about what is true and what is not true. So I have a lot of sympathy when people say that they're just not sure. I get it, because that was this close. But my journey was very special to me, and I hold it very close to my heart. And so in a lot of ways, even though I wish it didn't quite happen the way it did, but it's very precious to me. And the good outweighs the bad. So I see it as a good thing for me. You take it or leave it, what it is. And I think that as painful as it might be, or as challenging as it might be, when we look back on our life and we look at the experiences in our life that maybe we regret, maybe we cringe. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. Or I can't believe that person did that to me. Or I can't believe the church did that. Thanksgiving is maybe a good opportunity to revisit that experience. Maybe an opportunity to think, in everything in life there's good and there's bad. We don't even recognize, sometimes things that we look back on as being good. What kind of challenges, what kind of sacrifice, what kind of pain was there behind that enabled me to have that experience? There's ups and downs in all things in life. And this Thanksgiving, maybe please take an opportunity to consider where there is good, maybe when you thought that only there was bad, where God could be in all of that, and maybe how to find gratitude for it. That's my message. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, dearest Heavenly Parent. We thank you for this day where we can come together and celebrate Thanksgiving together as a community. Heavenly Parent, we really want to take this moment to acknowledge. I think that everybody here in this room has an experience, a feeling, knowing that you were present in their life at one moment of difficulty, of desperation, of challenge, of heartache, Heavenly Parent. To recognize that no matter what we may be going through, you are not far away. And in this way, I think, Heavenly Parent, we can really resonate with the heart of those early pilgrims who cried out in desperation because they could not see the way forward, Heavenly Parent. And you were there close to them. And you were there close to us, even right at this moment, Heavenly Parent. We thank you so much for always being our parent, always being close to us, no matter what difficulties we go through, no matter what challenges that we experience, Heavenly Parent. You are always there looking out for us. You are a loving parent. And I pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can always seek, no matter what difficulties come to us, to be grateful, to thank you in all situations, to always seek to understand the good, no matter how bad things may seem. We want to thank you for never leaving our side, for coming through for us, Heavenly Parent, in our moments of tremendous difficulty. We're all here today because of that, and we want to give you thanks. And for all the moments that you were there for us that even we could not see, we could not recognize. Maybe even moments where we are upset and angry about, Heavenly Parent, but you were still there. Please help us to have the wisdom and this foresight to be able to see into those moments, to be able to recognize them for what they were, to give you thanks. I offer this prayer in our names as Blessed Central Families. Amen and Aju. Thank you.